Her future was bright, but it came to an end with a callous execution in broad daylight. Two women working for Jo at the time witnessed events at the closest quarter, and Ian met them to hear their remarkable and shocking account.
The peace of Birstall was shattered just before 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It was just a normal Thursday. Jo Cox, MP and mother of 2 young children, was on her way to meet constituents at a routine surgery in Birstall when she was shot 3 times and stabbed 16 times in a senseless act of brutality. Caught in the middle, 2 women working for Jo who have rarely spoken about the experience or the aftermath.
It was just a normal day. Fazila and I were in the office waiting for Jo to arrive. Now, Jo was always late.
Yeah.
And Jo and I were having a meeting in the car because she was late. Fazila was driving, and I just stood on the pavement talking to Jo. And in my peripheral vision, I saw someone walking down, and I thought, oh, I'm going to be in their way. So I stood back, and he just shot Jo. Just like that. Not a word, just shot her in the head.
I saw her on the floor, and then Sandra started screaming, and I think at that point I thought something is seriously wrong now. You know, all I could think about was the children, you know, and I just kept saying, Jo, you just need to stay with me. But unfortunately he continued, and he was determined to kill her.
And you said, get away from her, she's got 2 little kids. Yeah. And then we started hitting him with our handbags.
Yeah.
Because what else do you do, you know? Oh.
I think what's clear on that day was he was her target. I probably represented everything he hated, but she was absolutely his target on that day.
And then Jo said to us, she said, get away, you two, get away, let him hurt me, not you. And I went towards him, so he came towards me, and then he went back and started stabbing Jo again.
And all this has just happened in a whirlwind, a split second.
At that point, I said to Jo, I need to help you a little bit, I need to move you. And she said, Fazila, I'm hurt. And that's the last thing she said. And then she did, unfortunately, die in my arms after that. So, yeah.
Not the day that you were expecting by any imagination. I mean, just absolutely devastating. One
of the worst things for me was Jo's mum and dad came running up the road, and Jean, Jo's mum, flung her arms round me and said, please tell me she's all right, Sandra. Please tell me she's all right. And I just said, they're working on her. You need to get there as quickly as you can. And as a mother, saying that to another mother, when I knew that her child, we knew then that she'd gone, was one of the hardest things that I've ever done.
While Jo's killer, a far-right extremist, was convicted at the Old Bailey and given a whole life term, Jo's death has had a lifelong effect on those who knew her well.
We never went back to Birstall for a long time,
For a long
did
time,
we?
yeah.
And then when we went back, we went together.
We went together once, yeah. But I don't go to that area
I
much.
don't. And I was born and brought up in Birstall.
Yeah. And I think it took me a long time to get to the point where actually I could process it a little bit and start thinking about it. And I think Sandra's right, that there's absolutely nothing anybody could have done on that day. And I mean, interestingly, halfway through when he stopped, he did say something like, this is for Britain first, Britain will be first. And again, like when you look at where we are today, in some ways it feels like we've perhaps not made as much progress as we should have done, and perhaps we didn't leave that space to reflect about the gravity of what was happened. It was a political killing. They did have a misogynistic element, you know, it was a far-right killing. So there was so many layers to it, and it's a difficult space to hold, and I don't think anybody probably wanted to hold that space, did they? No. Because it was so difficult and so big that I think we perhaps skipped a big step, that perhaps we should have stopped the clock and paused and perhaps reflected and really sort of digested what had happened and the gravity of it, and perhaps taken some learnings from that.
Her name is still out there.
Yeah.
And her legacy is still there, and there are so many people who are trying to keep that message alive. And
Absolutely,
I mean, we will never forget her. and just be kind and full of love like Jo was.
And thank you to both Fazila and Sandra for sharing their deeply personal and traumatic story. And we must also remember the late Bernard Kenny, who also tried to save Jo that day. Bernard, a retired miner seen here paying his respects at an event just 10 days later, was posthumously awarded the George Medal for his intervention, during which he was stabbed. He died aged 79 in 2017. Now, following Jo Cox's murder, the community's grief transformed into a powerful and extraordinary wave of public unity. And now, 10 years later, I've been speaking with Jo's husband, Brendan Cox, and her sister, Kim Leadbeater, to discuss memory, enduring grief, and how life continues to evolve beyond such profound loss. Jo Cox's funeral cortege passed through these streets 10 years ago. I remember standing here and watching Brendan Cox sitting between his two young children. For a family trying to comprehend the unimaginable, what followed brought some comfort.
I remember cooling at the time saying I knew that people loved Mummy, but I didn't realise this many people did. You know, I often spoke to the kids about it in the aftermath, about how many people loved Mummy, and that I think has had a lasting impact with them. They're incredibly optimistic, outgoing children. They aren't scared of the world. They love their lives.
10 years later, Jo remains part of daily life, not as a public figure, as a wife, a mother, an ordinary and extraordinary person.
What we've always tried to do is to remember her as she was, not as a sort of unobtainable ideal of a person. So, you know, she was messy, she was forgetful, she didn't like cooking, she was always late for things, as well as being, you know, inspiring and exciting and fun. You know, if I close my eyes, I can hear her laugh. If I, still a very sort of present part of our lives.
200 miles away in West Yorkshire, Jo's sister is also living with the loss of Jo 10 years on. In the place where they both grew up, Kim now represents the same communities Jo once served.
Thank you so much to everybody for coming down for the 2026 Big Sing here in good old Heckmondwike.
Last week, she invited hundreds of school children to celebrate Jo Cox's life and the message she championed, that we have far more in common than that which divides us. What is your favourite memory?
My 40th birthday is probably my favourite because Jo was the MP at that point, and this was 6 weeks before she was killed, and we hired a big house up in North Yorkshire, and I got sort of 22 of my friends to come up there, and we were all very sort of unsure as to whether Jo would make it because she got this big fancy job, and she did come. And she got involved in the 80s karaoke and the cheesy aerobics session that I did, and we all had far too much to drink, and that weekend has become really, really precious to me.
For almost 5 years, Kim has continued the work her sister started, but carrying Jo's legacy has come with a personal cost.
I definitely haven't processed Jo's murder. I haven't really grieved. I've just got on and tried to do as much as I can to make a difference. And I am a bit worried, 10th anniversary. Will I crash? Will I say, enough's enough and I just need to have some time out? And I don't know, but you can't wait for that day to come. For now, I will keep going for as long as I can.
For Brendan and Kim, 10 years has not removed the loss, but neither has it diminished the values Jo lived by.
I said this when Jo died, that I felt I had sort of two tasks. One was to surround the children in love, which I think I've mostly been successful with, and then to try to fight the hatred that killed Jo and to take that on.
Jo was always about finding the common ground, you know, getting to know people on a human level. There's nothing more powerful than connecting with other human beings, and certainly the work that we've done since Jo was killed with the Great Get Together and the events that we put on. When you have those human connections, it's much harder to dislike somebody. It's certainly much harder to hate somebody. And I think that was how Jo lived her life, and I think we could all probably do a little bit more of that. A decade on, grief remains. So do the memories.
Her family have worked tirelessly to ensure she's remembered not for the way she died, but for the values she lived by. And in this community, in these children, and in the family who still carry her with them every day, the legacy of Jo Cox lives on. Kim Leadbeater and Brendan Cox there, who I spoke to just a few days ago. Now, you may like to know that beside me is the statue of Joseph Priestley, an 18th century Bristol-born chemist and philosopher who stood up for toleration and equal rights for religious dissenters. And toleration is at the heart of our next report from our political correspondent, Fred Dimbleby, who's been speaking to some MPs who are suffering, well, worrying levels of harassment and intimidation, just doing their day job.
Seats. Been offered a tea or coffee?
We have.
It's Friday morning in Doncaster and Lee Pitcher is holding his constituency surgery. Inside the room, the people he represents talk about the issues they face. Outside, a security guard keeps watch. Threats against MPs are on the rise, and while they still want to be accessible, a long list of safety measures has become a part of daily life.
I'm just hugely conscious of it, almost obsessively at times. So it's not just my own safety that I'm thinking about my team, and then of course my family, who feel every single thing that ever happens to me. I'm gonna get it. Go on in.
Back at Lee's home, and while time with Foggy the dog may offer some light relief, the reminders of the risks are everywhere. Panic buttons placed around the house, just one protection for him and his family.
I had a window in the kitchen just above us over there, where basically you come down one morning and it looked like a rifle shot had gone through the window. It was hard to tell what had actually caused it. But of course after that you are worried, and the family's worried, because it just makes you absolutely even more nervous. And that first night that you go to bed when something like that's happened, that is really hard to sleep, because you just never know.
When MPs debate in the chamber, they do so under the plaques of two murdered colleagues. One Labour, one Conservative. Politicians from those parties may not agree on much, but being threatened is something they have in common.
I don't think things have gotten better, because obviously we had Sir David Amos, who was a really good friend of mine. He was murdered. Again, I remember where I was sat in a cafe in my constituency, and I remember seeing the news and my team just getting me out of there. Sorry, I didn't expect to get upset. He was a really, really decent, good man.
In my not yet quite 2 years, I've already, had both 2 online death threats, in addition to lots of other types of abuse. I'm on guard, all the time. I often choose not to go out, say to a pub or a restaurant with family, and rather just meet people in a home, because I can relax and let my guard down.
I think people will be horrified to hear this. One of the death threats I had against my children was from a single mum in my constituency. And when the police went round and knocked on her door, she was like, oh, well, I was drunk and I was angry. Well, I don't threaten your children. I would never think to threaten a child if I was angry or anything like that.
Looking after MPs' welfare is the job of this man, the Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle. Do you think MPs are safer now than they were back in 2016?
We're learning all the time. We're always looking for new solutions, new ways to carry out business. And I would say to you now, there's only one thing keeps me awake at night, and that is the security of MPs and those involved in the political family. It is the worry I have, and we've got to try and ensure that we're doing everything to protect MPs, but as well, democracy.
MPs spend their time in Parliament protected by tight security, but in a country many feel is more divided than ever, threats and intimidation are now a grim reality of the job. Fred Dimbleby, ITV News.
Well, let's join Fred in Westminster now. And your report highlights serious concerns from MPs, despite efforts to curb the violence against them.
Yeah, that's right. It is a complex story, because MPs say there have been genuine improvements in their security arrangements, whether that's bodyguards, panic buttons, the general awareness of the risks that they face. But they also say that the political environment has grown more toxic, more divisive, and they are receiving more of those threats. We expect debate disagreement in politics, but that is a world away from death threats focused on an MP, their staff, their family, and sometimes even their children. And we have to remember that Jo Cox worked in some dangerous, difficult places, including war zones around the world. But she was killed on the streets of her constituency, the place she was elected to represent. And 10 years on, MPs say we have learnt something, but not enough.
Thank you very much, Fred, live in Westminster there. Well, perhaps the antidote to the unrest felt in politics, well, perhaps it's happening right here on the streets of West Yorkshire. Now, I know in Dewsbury preparations are underway for the Great Get-Together. Now, it's an event designed specifically to heal the divisions that modern politics thrives on. And the driving force, well, it's not politicians in armoured cars, it's ordinary people like Farouk, who I'd like to introduce you to. Good evening, thanks for coming to Calendar. And you have two volunteers with you as well, Hibba and Jemima.
That's right.
Tell me first, though, Farouk, about this event that's happening on Friday.
Well, this event is part of the Great Get-Together. It's bringing people together to have fun, food and games and make friends.
And it's inspired by Jo Cox.
Absolutely.
Hibba, I know that you've taken part in this in years before. Tell me what it's like.
It's a really wonderful experience to see people from different backgrounds and different ages all come together and just have a good time.
Yeah. Jemima, what do you think? Do you think people get on better as a result of doing it?
I think, we bring together people from different institutions like police, the fire department, churches, masjids. It's just nice to see people from different demographics get along so well and kind of thrive to make a community where we can all enjoy without prejudice.
And it's very much youngsters, isn't it, who are at the forefront of all of this, and that is having effect on older generations, you were saying.
I feel like the older generations, the more that they observe the younger generations caring, it puts hope in them as well to put more of an effort to create a future for us all to be better. Be better
and to feel like you actually belong.
Yeah.
Because I guess what these events are about, Farouk, is that we have more in common.
Absolutely. So we work on that, more in common, whether it's sport, crime, whatever it may be, and bring that commonality and use the young people, empower them to bring people together and make friends.
And that work goes on beyond Friday, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We've been going for 18 years now. So, yes.
Yeah, so you must be very proud of these guys.
Absolutely. We've had hundreds and hundreds of young people engage in this. It's just not us, there's a lot more. And their aim is to try and build bridges between communities and make the world a better place for everyone.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, all of you, for taking part tonight. Isn't it great, really, that youngsters are taking things into their own hands? Now then, how do people prepare for a future where division might infiltrate communities? And what about those who say that loneliness plays a part in that? Well, Katie Oscroft has been to a boxing gym and she's been to Jo Cox's old school to see if lessons have been learnt since Jo Cox's death in 2016.
Jo was one of ours.
She strived to help the community as much as she can.
She was trying to tell us to stop this extremist views. And I think it's very important.
Jo Cox is talked about all the time at her old school. She was head girl here.
We held her in wonderful high regard as a head student and real role model for all our students, in particular for the girls. So for somebody to be taken from us, that was like one of our family.
And we think about the political ideologies.
But in the decades since then, these pupils fear the lessons of Jo Cox are not being learned outside these walls.
I think she did make a difference, but I feel like people could represent what she believed in more.
Because I come from an immigrant background, I think it's really important that we remember each other's differences.
Right now it's such an important time to draw focus to it because extremist views come with extremist ideas and dangerous ideas.
Although we've seen her story as an example, I feel like people should still take it more seriously because it's still happening and people haven't tried hard enough to put a stop to things like this happening.
What happened on a dark day in Birstall 10 years ago shone a bright light on the efforts of Jo Cox to fight extremism and combat loneliness. not far from where she was killed, and this boxing club is encouraging people to train together.
There's over 50 class that's on now. For them, a lot of it's something to do. It's that social, the amount of experience, social isolation, and they're here, they're making friends. And some of these people that we're working with here in this group have been coming for 4 or 5 years, and they'll say themselves it's changed their lives.
It's an escape for me. My wife, she's disabled, so I help her a lot around the house. And coming here, it gives me a break, get away.
Back at Jo's school, those about to head off into the world outside say these words need to have a wider impact.
Like she said, we have far more in common than that of which divides us. And I think it's especially important today, especially with the rise of extremism. Negativity really is spread more easily.
People are getting more extreme and more radical in their views, but Jo reminds us that we are a part of a big community and we're all in this together, really.
Jo Cox is never far from the minds of those in communities she represented. They now want more people to live by the values she stood for. Katie Oscroft, ITV News.
Now, 10 years ago, where I'm standing looked very different. It was 1 week after Jo's murder. Hundreds of people stood in silence, with the entire area bedecked with flowers and tributes. And they did it because Jo Cox met the world with love. A love for her children, her family, and a love for people she didn't even know. She wanted to make the world a better place, and she touched the lives of so many in her community, including a new choir which was formed just before she died. In 2016, Batley Community Choir recorded a song called The Rose in Jo's memory. And we leave you with that very song, which, as you'll see, still means so much to Jo's family. From all of us here, good night.